Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my Spiritual Balance YouTube channel. Please be sure to like and subscribe or follow if you want to continue to get updates on what I'm doing and the content that I'm putting out. So I decided I want to begin my channel with talking about crystals and stones. The reason I wanted to do that, not just because stones are obviously a good foundation of where to start. I also, that's where I began in my spiritual quest, my spiritual journey. Um, I became obsessed with stones and crystals and, had them stashed everywhere. I would have like a setup every day when I would go to work. And I really still do that. There's little stone collections all over my house and at my massage studio and my reading studio. So yeah, so I'm just all about the stones and crystals. I wear them every single day and I love it. I'll never stop. I'll never stop. I love the energy and I love the frequency. And I love to empower what the stones do and how the stones heal. And when we collaborate and co-create in that process, it really unlocks the power within us and also the power within the stones. So today I would like to start by talking about selenite. And it's ironic because selenite really isn't considered a crystal. It's actually like crystallized salt, so like hardened salt. Um, and I'm again choosing to start there because of the protection and purification powers of salt. So this is a piece of selenite I have here. This is a little selenite bowl, and I use it for clearing my jewelry at the end of the day and clearing like other stones. And then I have the little selenite sword here that I use in rituals for clearing and cutting. And selenite on its own is amazing for clearing and cutting, which I will talk about more in a bit. But yeah, it's just a wonderful tool to use. And just, of course, like the shape of it also helps with our intention. And that's why we use these things. I mean, of course, like the stones and crystals, like they emit a frequency. So they're doing their own thing, whether we believe in it or not. But when we can, have like these visual tools, like having it in the shape of a sword or having it in a bowl, that also helps to amplify that the frequency of whatever stone that we're using, whatever crystal that we're using. So yeah, I felt like it was important to start there and honor the crystals, honor where I started and where really everything in my practice is rooted from is using the stones and crystals. So, all right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what selenite is good for and what we can do with selenite, how we can use it on a daily basis, and yeah, just like what it can do, like what purposes, what properties selenite holds and vibrates. So every stone resonates to an astrological sign and a number. And of course, there's so many different books on crystals and crystal healing out there, and everyone kind of has their own take. Oftentimes people feel what the stone is telling them, and then that's what they write in their books. So take all of that, that part with a grain of salt, literally in this case with some salt. But it is said that selenite vibrates to the astrological sign of Taurus. And I love this. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. And yeah, Taurus is also a very protective sign of like home and family and of its sacred space. So that makes sense to me that selenite would vibrate with Taurus energy. And the number associated with selenite is the number 8. And 8 is the infinity frequency. And in numerology, 8 is also about financial growth and financial wealth and how we connect and relate to our finances. So again, with the properties of selenite that I'm going to talk about, it's so interesting that that all of these things come together. And again, like for me, like when things come together in that way, when everything like is clicking into place and making sense, that's what speaks truth to me. So always follow your own intuition, always listen for your own truth. But back to selenite. So selenite is an amazing stone for mental clarity. And I think we've all just been in such a mental fog over the last few years and just doubting and not knowing where to turn or not knowing how to move forward. Selenite can really just help to clear that fog to get us some perspective. And selenite is a great stone for like zooming out and getting a bigger perspective. Selenite expands our awareness, and that's part of its properties, is that it opens up our perception, and that's part of the mental clarity thing too. So that really does work hand in hand. So keeping selenite, I mean, I've started just keeping selenite everywhere because I love it so much. But especially like in common areas, so like the living room, the kitchen, anywhere that people will gather in your home, in your workspace, wherever people are gathering, keeping some selenite around is really good for just clearing the energy, for helping us to be aware of other people and the needs of other people, and just for clearing our mental state, clearing the energy. Selenite is wonderful for this kind of work. It is a highly protective stone. Salt is highly protective. It's been used for centuries for this purpose, for clearing and cleansing away evil energy, negative energy, spirits, hauntings, like, all of these things we use salt for clearing and for protection. So one little trick, one little, ritual that we can do with clearing and protection would be to just really clean our homes, give it a really good, thorough, deep cleaning, specifically the doors and windows. And in feng shui, which I practice a lot of as well, when our windows are not clean and they're fuzzy, they're cloudy, it means it's like it represents cloudiness in the mind, because the windows are where we see the outside world, or we take the outside world in from our home. And if it's clouded, it just is like a lack of mental clarity, a lack of clear perception. So, and then also your front door is where energy, chi, enters your home. So having your front door like clear and no clutter around the front door, having it lit, and like literally washing down your front door, and again using salt, salt water with vinegar, or some essential oils, and clear and cleanse the door frequently, because we want to make sure that the energy coming into our home at all times is a good, happy energy. And even if it can't be like a great energy, at least it's protected. So that's something that is important to do. So yeah, so we clean and clear the home, specifically doors and windows. We sage the home. And whenever you're saging, it is so important to have all doors and windows open, because whatever you're stirring up with the smoke of sage needs to clear out of the house. So if you're locked down, or you're in a room with no windows, or try to keep some door open. There needs to be airflow and ventilation, because everything is going to get stirred up and then settle back in. And the occupants of the home, or the occupants of the space, can really be impacted and hit by it. Because if we're constantly stirring up negative energy and then it's settling on us in the house or in the space, it builds up over time and can become very detrimental, physically, emotionally, mentally. So just something to consider. So after we clean, we clear with sage, and then you can place pieces of selenite on the windowsills or on the doorway, like under the mat or above the door, whatever you choose to do. But what this does is that it prevents any negativity from coming in from the outside to your home. So it's a really wonderful protective thing to do, especially with places where, even though you clear your energy, like a little bit later, it feels like a haunting energy, or, if you live near like a gut or anything like that, I know that it's said locally in St. Thomas, like that, like zombies or like spirits like live near the guts. So, keeping your home cleared of that energy on a regular basis is really important. Having some selenite at the doors and windows will really help to keep your home safe and prevent these unwanted entities from entering. So I'm not sure how it works with aliens, but I know for for ghosts and spirits and just bad intentions, it will protect it from like flowing through into your home. So that's super helpful. And also another thing with clearing, while you're using your selenite and all these other ways, mopping your house with salt water is actually a feng shui remedy for clearing the home. So, I really suggest doing that. It's a wonderful practice to have just a little bit of salt in your mop water, and it works wonders, and you'll feel the difference. Always pay attention to how you feel after doing these routines, after doing these rituals, because that's where the truth lies, not in what someone else tells you. Experience it on your own and form your own rituals, your own habits, and add to it or subtract from it where necessary. And another thing, just for like self-clearing and self-cleansing, while we're on the topic of salt, I really love using a salt scrub on a regular basis. One of my many hats that I wear is a massage therapist. And so on a physical level, there is an energetic exchange sometimes, even when we're well protected. And, sometimes it just seeps through because we care, because we're open, because we're working with the physical body. So on a very regular basis, I make sure and do a salt scrub to just to clear that energy, to make sure that my energy is staying harmonious and pure, so that I can show up for my clients being an open channel, and also that I'm not bringing my stuff into my appointments, because we all have our stuff. So we're still human, and as long as we're being responsible with our energy, then you're doing a good job. Okay, so selenite is also amazing for working with past lives and future lives. So as far as future lives go, that's based on where you're at in the present moment. So, if you're trying to make a decision, you're trying to make a choice from where you are in the present, that's where our power is. If you hold a piece of selenite and you envision one path and then envision another path, you'll be able to see the trajectory of how each path would turn out for you. And this can help in the decision-making process, just really tap into where you feel the most settled, the most comfortable, and the happiest. And then you can go forward from there as you choose. And of course, if your present circumstances change, then that future outcome will change as well. But it is nice for helping us to discern and to make those kinds of big life choices. And it's just a tool. I mean, that don't base your decisions solely on that. It's just one of the many tools in the decision-making process that can be helpful and supportive to you. So, and as far as the past lives, especially early on in spiritual work and on the healing journey, past life work is extremely important, and it's validating to where we have traumas, of where we still have healing work that we need to do. But I've been in this field for a long time, and I really, I regularly see people get caught up and become obsessed with their past lives and actually try to continue living their past life in their present life. And that life ended for a reason. It ended on purpose. And so we're in this life for a reason. And again, the present is where your power is. And so if you're trying to constantly pull forward your past life stuff, like any of your skills, any of your talents, and a lot of the hard things usually come from past lives. You've already integrated it, you're already there. So you don't need to over-identify with the past, but use it as a tool and as a stepping stone to better understand who you are now, and to better integrate into being more present in your lessons now in the present moment. Again, with past life stuff, a lot of people, it's kind of frustrating. A lot of people, identify with famous figures. And again, this is such a big distraction, and it's so disappointing that, every single person is the reincarnation of Merlin or of Jesus, or, of Mary Magdalene or Isis, or, we all can't be those famous people. And that it doesn't mean that we're any less important in who we are now, because we may have just been a regular common person, like unnotable in the history books, but that experience, that soul experience that you had then, is important to you now. So just being comfortable in that and validating that. And again, I've just seen a lot of people get caught up in over-identifying with like famous people from the past. Of course, we all feel connections to famous people. Even currently, there may be, different figures, public figures that you feel drawn to and attracted to and a resonance with. It doesn't mean that you get to be them in a future life, or you whatever, have known this person in a past life. It just means that your soul resonates, and that's okay. So I think it's important to just touch on that, because it's a huge distraction from doing the real work. So selenite is wonderful for past and future lives, but always remember that your power, your greatest influence, is in the present. And we want to integrate the past and plan for the best future. And so that's the purpose why we would want to use selenite, for this reason. And, not that the past life stuff is only important in the beginning. it's still so important to do the past life work as it comes up when you move forward along your spiritual path. So every once in a while, I'll have some past life stuff come up, if there's like a constant block or limitation, it getting a past life reading or an Akashic reading is an amazing thing to do to get some soul clarity. Why have I been tripping over this? What happened in the past life that kept this cycle going? And it can help to bring more empathy and compassion and understanding for your soul now, that this is what your soul has been through. And so now in the present moment, how can we use that information to break through? Because that's why we're here. We're here to break through our lessons from the past lives. So that's something really important that I felt, it's significant to take some time and dissect and to talk about. Okay, so back to selenite. Selenite is a fantastic stone for entrepreneurs, for new people in business, especially if you feel uncomfortable around money and talking about money and giving and receiving money. Selenite is such a supportive stone for new entrepreneurs, and specifically for entrepreneurs that are in the healing fields, because oftentimes these are people that are the most uncomfortable about money and finances and taking money for doing healing work. And I know this is something that I have worked through. When I was working through these things, I had not discovered selenite yet. So it's something that is supporting that, that physical, like heavy lifting I did back then. But it's really helping me now, and it's just helping again to solidify that that structure that I have worked to build. And so yeah, selenite can help with the acquisition of wealth. It can help you to, because it's really good for like humble people that are worried about, and it's a good thing to be worried about overcharging. We never want to overcharge, but we also want to charge what we're worth, to really charge for our time. And something, I just want to dive into that a little bit more. So if you are undercharging for your services and for your gifts and for the healing, so you're giving your all, you're showing up with this full integrity and giving, but you're undercharging. So when the client wants to come back for further work or, guidance or whatever your craft is, if you're struggling financially, you're going to be depleted. You're not going to be able to show up in a way to support that client. And so it's like shooting yourself in the foot or like chasing your tail. It's something that we just have to be comfortable with. And I have found that as I lean, and I just lean in uncomfortably, and especially in the beginning. And thankfully, my clients were so understanding and so wonderful, and were happy to pay my prices. And so that was wonderful. So we really grew together, and I'm grateful for them. But yeah, so selenite can just help us to get more comfortable with that financial exchange, that financial interaction. And something that I was talking to my son about recently, because of course, in our home, we discuss everything very openly. And of course, he has heard and been told that money is evil, and it's a bad thing, and we don't want to get hung up on money. And of course that is, it can be true, and some parts of that it is true. But what I told him was that money is a tool, and so we can use a tool to do good things, to build homes and to make our lives better, or we can use tools to hurt people and do bad things. And that's all money is. It's a tool. We can use it to do bad things, or we can use it to do good things. So I think it's really important that we heal and harmonize our relationship with money. It's a trade, goods for services. And like I said, it's something I've tripped over again and again. And I have just seen that the more comfortable and confident I am in knowing my worth and charging for that, the more I attract people who value it and want to participate on the process or in the process. So yeah, and it's something like I said before, just like leaning in uncomfortably, and I sometimes in the beginning, I would like make a little comment about how I was uncomfortable. And then I would like ball that up and put it aside and then tell them my price. And and thankfully now I do that. I mean, I don't have to tell people anymore, but if I am, if that stuff is getting stirred up for me, and again, it does from time to time, I just try and ball up that anxiety and put it aside and, and lovingly say my price. And that's been a really helpful process and practice for me. Okay, so selenite is an amazing stone to use for manifestations. It is a powerful manifester. So especially around your new moon ritual, or as the moon is growing, as the moon is waxing to the full moon phase, using selenite to help you to manifest what you want. And then, if you're trying to get rid of things, to cut things away, selenite will help you to manifest that. If you want to manifest like an end to a bad relationship or to a bad job or to like an abusive situation, selenite can really be helpful to cut that cord. And then again, the selenite sword can be, or knife could be extremely helpful to cut that cord. So, and that's one of the things again that selenite can do is, cord cutting. So yeah, it's a powerful manifester for whatever you want in any direction that you want. So I encourage everyone to use it for those purposes. So another thing selenite is helpful for is with making judgment calls. So if you're a teacher, a lawyer, a judge, a manager, most things we do in our work, in our life, we need to make judgment calls about. And selenite just helps to give us, again, the mental clarity to make fair and just decisions and judgment calls. It's also wonderful for, it helps to promote justice in disputes and adjudication. So in court hearings, especially in these things, it helps to bring justice. And of course, I think that's really important, especially if something has gone that far to be in the court systems. So yeah, if you're having any legal issues, carrying some selenite with you into the courtroom, or again, if you're a lawyer, anything, wearing some selenite can be really supportive and helpful to your cause. Selenite is a wonderful stone for emotional flexibility, and it strengthens your decision making. So again, and it's interesting. I feel like it's been like layers of revealing how it helps us to like make good decisions, how to make fair decisions, for the mental clarity to figure out where we're going. So yeah, it's just like, it's a reoccurring theme, which means that this is such a powerful stone for those purposes. And again, relating back to Taurus, the moon is exalted in Taurus, and selenite definitely has like a lot of lunar energy to it, even in the way that the crystal shines, and the connection between the moon and the element of salt. So, and Taurus is about what makes us feel good, what the things that we want to gather, the things that we want to keep in our lives that make us feel secure and stable, so again, it's interesting that selenite connects us to these like physical pleasures and the physical things that we need in order to thrive and survive. Selenite is amazing for clearing and cleansing other stones and other crystals. And that's my purpose, like I said earlier, for using my selenite bowl. At the end of the day, I put my jewelry in the bowl, and it's doing the clearing work while I am, showering, doing my salt scrub, clearing my own energy. So and that's one of the things I love about stones so much, is that I can clear them, set my intention for them, and then they do the work for me all day long. I don't have to keep worrying about like, am I protected? Am I leaking energy? Like I think a lot of spiritual people get caught in that loop, like, oh, it's bad energy. Like if once I'm charged and I have my intention set for the day, the stones are working for me. I don't have to worry about someone else's negative energy. I know I'm safe and protected because I've done my work behind the scenes. And so I'm a big supporter of doing that. So they're all different. You don't have to do the selenite bowl. You can have a selenite charging plate. There's like selenite incense holders. They're basically doing everything you can imagine with selenite these days. So that's something that, see what feels right for you. And yeah, you can just like load up your own crystals in there and clear it. And it's important because some stones can like self-clear, which I'll talk more about that later. But other stones, they absorb energy, they get heavy and dense. So if you're wearing the same stones, the same crystals every single day without clearing and cleansing them, especially the ones that need it on a regular basis, it's kind of like carrying like the day before that old energy with you every day, almost like not changing your clothes. You know, I mean, of course, it's not as smelly, but energetically it is. You know, energetically it's heavy. It can be, you know, it can sure it can be like a little smelly. And so like yeah, you're in a funk. You know, so it is important to clear and cleanse the crystals on a daily basis. And you know, I mean, using selenite, you can run them underwater, you can sage your stones, you can, I'll do a whole video on it, I think, about like different things we can do to clear and cleanse. One of my favorite things to do is put it out in the sunlight. There are certain stones that if you leave them too long in the sunlight, they can change the color, like amethyst is one of them. It doesn't do well in direct sunlight for very long, but it doesn't even need to be very long. You know, I like to use the midday sun. So I put my stones out there for 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most. And it clears and cleanses everything with that beautiful solar energy, like burns out the negativity and recharges it. So that's something that I like to do. And I'll talk about, you know, other things you can do in another video later on. Okay. So selenite is an incredible stone for Reiki healers, for people doing like hands-on touch, hands-on healing, and medical intuitives. It's a stone that can help us to access the interior of the body, like through our sight and through our intuition. And it can help us to understand existing disorders in the body. So if you're ever doing like a scanning session on a client, even from far away, using the selenite, it can help you to like direct you and channel the information, the area of the body that could be experiencing a dis-ease or a disorder, and help to bring an understanding of like how to heal it and what you can do. It is said that selenite can expand our lifespan, our lifespan, and so it like it you know increases our or it's a stone of long life, and it helps us to overcome free radical damage in our cells. And this is really interesting because selenite helps to like do a lot of cellular repair work. So interesting that it would be linked to a long life. So I just thought that was pretty cool. And so the other thing I wanted to mention was that we're moving into this, and this kind of like blends in the astrology and why I think selenite is so important in this time. So the planet Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus since 2018. It was there for a few months, re-entered in 2019, and it will be in Taurus, but then at the end in and out of Taurus until 2026. So this is a long time that we're going to be working with Uranus, the great awakener, the rebel in the sign of Taurus. So Uranus can bring disruptions, unexpected events, shocks, surprises, and Taurus really does not like those things. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. It likes stability, it likes structure, it likes support. Any Tauruses that you know or any Taurus planets that you have, they're not big on change. They're not big on disrupting things. They collect the things that they like, and then they like to keep those things close to them. So Uranus and Taurus is a big disruptor, also like financially, the financial systems. That's a big part of the disruptions that we've been having. So so just interesting to note. And by using selenite, by working with selenite, it can help us to navigate these like wild times that we're going to be having with Uranus in the sign of Taurus. The other thing happening in the sign of Taurus and to all the fixed signs is that we're just about moving into the eclipse cycles, moving into Taurus and Scorpio. So the last 18 months, the eclipses have been happening in Gemini and Sagittarius. And next month, we begin having eclipses. So in November of 2021, we begin having eclipses in Scorpio and Taurus. The nodes don't actually change signs until January, but we're beginning to see kind of a foretelling of what we're going to be working with over the next year, over 2022, and how the eclipses will influence and impact our lives. So with the eclipses happening in Scorpio and Taurus, working with a stone that supports Taurus, like selenite, is something that can help us to navigate these eclipses. So the North Node, which is what we want to lean into, it's where we are uncomfortable. We really haven't done this before. It's also where we can kind of like get like super hungry and not have enough, and we never feel fulfilled. We never get enough of it. The North Node will be transiting through Taurus next year. So having selenite can help us with having some mental clarity, some peace, some harmony with navigating these radical and changing times. Let me just look over my notes and see if I'm missing anything before I wrap up this video. Okay, so I'd like to go back to the clearing and cleansing of stones. So like I was saying before, there are some stones that are said like they don't need to be cleared, or at least not as regularly as often. And then there are other stones, which most stones need clearing and cleansing on a regular basis. So it's said that selenite does not need to be cleared or cleansed on a regular basis, if at all. Some people would say it doesn't need to at all. Citrine is another stone that is said that negativity can't exist around it. So it just constantly is dispelling negativity. I've worked with citrine a lot for a long time. It's one of my favorite stones. I have so many favorite stones. They're all my favorite. But the thing with these stones that don't need to be cleared and charged is that they do. Every once in a while, it's very helpful to clear and cleanse these power crystals. So selenite in particular, you do not want to use water to cleanse selenite because it's crystallized salt. Over time, it'll just break down and fall apart. Supposedly, I do have a piece of selenite that is more like faceted. So I have, like run it under the water. That was before I knew that you weren't supposed to. But sometimes, the stones get a little bit dusty. I made sure it was dried really well. And then I put it out in the sunlight to prevent it breaking down. And it's been fine. I've had this piece of selenite for a long time. And so that worked, but it is not recommended to put your selenite in the water, to use water to clean it. Maybe just like a damp rag or something if it's gotten dusty, and because it does sometimes have like little crevices in it because of the salt structures and how they crystallize, depending on the kind of or the style of selenite that you have. So yeah, don't use water for cleansing. But what you can use for cleansing for selenite is the sunlight. Put it outside for, again, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the absolute most. It does not need that much time in the sun. You can use incense or sage, Palo Santo, whatever you like to use to clear energy. So, you just take the sage, you light it, or whatever smoke clearing that you're using, and just, swirl it around. Make sure that you feel like the energy has been cleared and cleansed. I like to do this outside if I'm doing that, so that everything can just disperse outside, and then I don't have this like leftover energy in my house floating around. So you can also use a bell. And when you're using sound for healing, especially the bells, I recommend using a bell that's brass on brass, the brass inside, the brass outside. Again, in feng shui, this is a remedy for dispelling negativity, for clearing haunted houses, for space clearing. You ring a bell. So I would just take my selenite and I would ring my brass bell all around it. And I've done this. I love it. Especially when I'm frustrated and there's like an angry, negative energy around. I just ring my bell, and it's like it clears and disperses energy. Again, it's said that like ghosts and evil spirits and negativity cannot exist around the bells. And, again, that's why in temples and churches, there's often bells or gongs or singing bowls or whatever it is to get that lower frequency, that lower vibration out. You can also use the crystal healing bowls. You can use the Tibetan metal bowls. Those are great for doing it as well. Or you can use salt, just like crystallized salt, or just whatever, fine salt, and you pour it in a bowl, and then you bury your crystals. And you can do that with all your crystals. Bury it in the salt. And those little tips that I gave you for clearing selenite, you can use them for any crystal, anything, but do be careful with the sunlight for certain stones. Amethyst is really the only one I've seen a big difference in. But just be aware, you don't want your stones to lose their color and their vibrance being out in the sunlight for too long. So just short periods in the sun. For all of the other stones, using water is great. It's fine. It's just, recommended not to use water for clearing selenite. But yeah, I do think even these crystals that we don't need to clear, they do. The healing power of them just feels like it slows down, it gets a little heavy. And so if we can just support the things that are supporting us, then keep it clear, keep it cleansed on a regular basis. We're happier, we're more protected, we can thrive. And even with citrine, clearing it on a regular basis, because it's such a powerful stone, is doing so much work when we keep it around us, that we want to make sure it continues to vibrate at its highest frequency possible. And so after I clear and cleanse my stones, I also just say a little prayer with the stones for their purpose, to bring forth their vibration, their frequency, that it can resonate and resound in me, in everyone in my home, or in my space. And just for that the stone can live its truest potential. And so by keeping it clean and cleared, the stone can do what it was meant to do. And the same thing with us. If we keep our energy clean and clear, and we focus, and we set our direction, set our sails, the universe will conspire with us to get us where we want to go. So I'm really glad that I made it through this video. I have recorded it about 10 times, and every time someone knocks on the door or comes in the door, or I misspeak or say something and I got discouraged and stopped. So I'm really glad that I made it all the way through, and sorry about any noise in the background. It's just a loud time in my life. It's construction happening all around, but I think a lot of people are having that. So it is what it is. And and anytime I'm hearing like that hammering and stuff, I just try and I imagine my frustrations and my annoyances being on the receiving end of that hammer, and we're just hammering it out. So and when I'm doing massages too, and there's these loud noises, I envision that they're cutting out or hammering out the tight muscles, or the tension, or the stuck energy. So I really believe in using all of the omens for our highest purpose and for our healing. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. There was a quote that I wanted to share actually before I leave. This reminds me of how I am with my family. We say goodbye like 500 times. I'm not sure you guys, everyone probably does that. It's like, okay, bye, bye. So, okay. So, this is my first real video. So I heard a quote recently on a class I was doing, and I just looked it up because I wanted to just dedicate myself to this truth. So the quote is by Joe Sabah, and it is, "You don't have to be good to start. You just have to start to be good." And as a perfectionist, that's been really helpful. That's been my mantra lately, actually, is yeah, you don't have to be good to start, but you do have to start to be good. So here I am, maybe not so good, but starting. So thank you for joining me on my journey, and I look forward to growing with you all. Thank you.